I binged right all through three of them. It was
Yeah,
Fly Girl, you know, For the Love of Money, Boss Lady, and I was over here thinking this was kind of ahead of its time
yeah.
because what is your response when you probably get told, yo, these books were ahead of its time, especially for 2021 now?
Well, I'm a visionary, man, so I'm always coming up with things, even as a kid, that other people couldn't see. So when you have that vision, either you can be afraid of it and you waste it, or you accept it and you run with it. So I accepted it and ran with it early. So I'm used to being ahead of my time. When you're an original thinker, man, that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So at this age now, I'm just used to it. So it's the same thing with music. I sit down with a lot of kids and they can't hear what I hear on the beat. And every time I'm like, trust me, just do what I ask you to do, and it's gonna be all right. And every single time, man, we end up with a hot record. With these kids, they only hear what they hear. So I'm used to it, man. You know what I mean? When you see things a different way and you have to convince other people to go ahead and try it. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my career, man. Convincing people to try these different visions in music and in film. Because with books, it's just me. I don't have to convince you of my vision. I can just go do it. But when I'm doing music and I'm producing music like Quincy Jones and Barry Gordy, where I'm putting out younger people, each time you have to talk them into understanding what you're doing with the song. I can imagine the conversation that Quincy Jones had with Michael Jackson when he came up with Thriller. You know what I mean? Unless Michael was all in, okay, you're going to be a monster. You're going to turn into a gargoyle. And he's like, really? Like, this is a song? Like, what are you doing with this? So I would love to hear a conversation with Quincy Jones on how that conversation went when he brought up that daggone Thriller thing. So, yeah, when you're ahead of your time, man, you got to get used to it. I'm old now, so it's nothing new. I'm coming up with a lot of film ideas that other people aren't coming up with. So it's normal for me, man. I just got to keep getting the capital to do it. And that's what I'm working on now.
So starting with Flyy Girl, was it subconscious or somewhat intentional to kind of like give a scenario like this is what happens when a traditional father is truly not involved in his daughter's life?
hmm Well, I mean, that happened a lot. I actually moved up to a neighborhood where a lot of girls did have their fathers. The uptown area, it was two-parent households. That's where black people moved up in Philadelphia. And I moved up from West Philly, where I didn't have a father either as a guy. And my mother went ahead and got slick on me, and she still wanted to be in a relationship, so she married another West Philadelphia man, 6'4", 230 pounds, and all man. And so now I'm like 9 years old, I'm like 75 pounds, and I had to deal with this big monster, and he was all West Philadelphia. And so I had to deal with that and graduate into manhood. And so I understand that, man, when you don't have a father around, that discipline, that structure, and mom is working 2 jobs, it's just too much to do. So I understand that, coming from a one-parent household and my mother marrying when I was 9, and then getting that father figure that I had to deal with for the next 9 years of my life until I got out the house. But that allowed me to graduate into manhood. So it's the same thing with women, young women. And a lot of times when they don't have a father figure, they end up in relationships where they can search for a father figure, or they end up in relationships where they're not protected. Because when you have girls that are protected, at some point she's gonna say, "My father wants to meet you," and then you got to get your act together and you get your tie together again, and you go over there and you say, "Okay, I got to talk to her dad," and then you figure out how to be cool with her dad, knowing that you can't disrespect his daughter. Now you're gonna have your regular arguments that guys and girls have, but you can't go overboard. You know what I mean? And so the young women have a protection from having a father, but when they don't have a father, who knows what they can end up getting involved in with a guy where they have no protection, because that guy knows he don't have a father. And if she don't have uncles or a grandfather or brothers or somebody to give that guy a little hesitation on how he acts with her, who knows? That's not saying that all guys are going to treat it that way. But yeah, that's what you're dealing with. But again, just even though I was a guy, I understand it can go both ways with guys or girls if you don't have a father figure in your household. And so it wasn't subconscious, it's conscious. I'm aware of it. You know what I mean? When I'm writing that book, fathers around and fathers not being around. Because a lot of times when fathers weren't around, those were some of the girls that all the guys are going after. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because she don't have the structure that the two-parent households have. Now that's not across the board. Sometimes you have single moms that do the job they need to do, and you have young, respecting women that respect them. But yeah, it's just across the board, guys and females. I just understood it.
I wanted to go ahead and address. I wanted to address also For Love of Money and
Yeah,
Boss Lady. One of the things I
right.
noticed about that, because dude, okay, they're really, in reality, I don't know too many Tracys, but
Yeah.
Tracy she had a fucking hunger. She had a hustle. Now
Yeah.
I'm over here trying to recap where this hunger come from because Pops was Pops was pretty much taking his own little vacation away from Mom's, in Fly Girl. And then, he comes back in the tail end of the book and it looks like he's pretty much there rekindled with Mom, in the
Right.
second book. But where did her hunger to succeed come from while she was LA? I mean, I hate to make it seem like this was like a real character, but god damn it, it felt like a real character to me. That's how real this book was to me and shit. Where
Right.
did that hustle,
Right.
where did that fire come from where she said, fuck this, I gotta succeed out here in LA?
Well, let's think about the Philadelphians now. We got two guys, Will Smith and Kevin Hart.
Right.
Now, them dudes, they are the hardest working Holly, and they both from Philadelphia. So it's just about, I call it the row house mentality, where we so tight, close to each other, that the competition is fierce. And so that's where she grew up. She had competition for boys, competition for flyness, competition. So she was already a competitive woman if you read the first book. She's not
Yes.
no, secondary woman. She's, a type A girl. And so now, once she graduated and figured out, you know what, I want to go out to Hollywood and try this. She ain't coming out there as something different from what she is. She gonna come out there and be 100% Philadelphia. And so that's just in our culture out here, man, in Philly. That's how we are, beast people, So yeah, the girls are gonna be the same way. And so yeah, that's not something that's made up. That's the Philadelphian attitude. But you gotta leave Philly to do that. A lot of them don't leave Philly. But when they leave it, then you feel that like, wow. But when they stay in Philly, everybody's the same way. So it kind of cancels itself out. But when they go to another city, another state, then you feel that whole Philadelphian hustle and grind. And that's what all the people talk about, the hustle of Philadelphia.
Boss Lady. Now, in Boss
Yeah.
Lady, yo, you dropped some hidden gems in that book. It's almost like you were giving everybody a blueprint out there who wanted to be in Hollywood, who wanted to make movies, independent films, who even wanted to like get into music. You were literally letting everybody know, step one, you gotta like screenplay. Step two,
Yeah.
pitch it to production companies. Step three, get it green light. Step four, casting. My goodness. Was that intentional? Were you trying to let everybody know, look, if you want to get in this game, this is really how it is?
Yeah, because the fan base kept asking me about movies, and it's like unless you have your own money to produce the film, now you get into that state of pitching and begging. And right now I'm more out from it, man. We now have a whole lot of black books that are adapted into film because we don't have the capital from the book industry, and then a lot of Hollywood people, fake in front and they don't know the material. A lot of them don't read the material, so they don't
Right.
even know where to start from. And so right now, man, I'm hustling extra hard to get the money before I croak to do my own projects, man, because whenever you're trying to get your projects done with somebody else, they have their own plate of pancakes. And
Yeah.
they're going to eat that plate of pancakes before they eat yours. And so you sitting there waiting for them to eat all that pancakes, the audience doesn't understand this. The fan base doesn't understand something like, why don't you make your movie into, look, man, it costs money to make them,
Yeah.
and money don't fall off trees like that. Now, if I had it like Tyler Perry, I would have been did movies. So I'm hustling to get it right now, man, because that's been a holdup. Hollywood not wanting to do it when they had the rights to do it. They didn't do anything. So I wrote the screenplay, and I'm ready to hustle and make that thing happen. So yeah, I put that in the book to let the fan base know it ain't as easy as you think it is to get movies made in Hollywood. And so I wanted to break it down for them so they could be a little more educated on the process.
How do you want the people to know how to handle rejection if you get a door slammed in your face?
Well, I've been pissed off for years, man, so I haven't handled it well at all. You know what I mean? It's like, now I'm like angry every time I talk to financial people because it's the same old nonsense. They sit on money and then they make you prove everything. And then they want you to do all these financial projections and stuff that they're used to. That's their business. Our business
Yeah.
is making sure that we have the hottest creativity possible. That's what sells. But these jokers start talking, so you really have to get a team where you got a financial person that does all the, and I had a conversation last night with two dudes from Atlanta talking all the financial stuff. And I'm like, yo, dude, I understand it, but that's out of my lane. I'm not going to spend a month and 2 months trying to write a financial that is not my expertise. So I asked the brother last night, I said, look, how much time do you have where you can help me? You write you in bed with them people already. You write what I need to have. You pitch it to those people, and then I break down the percentage that you need. Because that's what's going to happen. You can't go to a book writer or a musician or an actor and tell them to do financials that financial experts are doing. We are not financial experts to break down the paperwork that they need to see. And so at this point, I'm like, look, dude, if you need all them financials done, then you do it, and I'll give you the percentage that you need for doing it. But outside of that, man, ain't nobody doing all them financials and whatnot coming from the artistic, but that they ask for all that stuff, right? So you have to get it done. But you have to have a partner that understands how to do it. Or the studio just buys your content. And that typically doesn't happen with black books. It's not the studio buying your content. It's going to be some middleman that believes in it that much, okay? I haven't had that middleman with money yet. I have middlemen that's always pitching, and the pitch always gets turned down. And so that's why we haven't had the films done yet.
All right. And now 2019, late 2019, pandemic hits.
Right.
2020, everything is shut down. And you probably saw all the successful black movies start streaming now. Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. Was that an alternative that you probably explored?
I have a film on Amazon Prime right now called Monlogues.
Oh,
the only reason,
about to watch that tonight.
Yeah, Monlogues is on Amazon Prime right now, but the only reason it's on there, instead of me doing a tour first, like you said, Corona shut down the tours. So I was setting up a 10-city movie tour, which included LA and Oakland out there in California. And then, we were setting it up in February and March. The country shut down in March. So I had to shut down my tour. So I put it on streaming, but streaming is, if you look at the residuals that you make from streaming, they're making the money. You're not making any money. It's ridiculous, man. You might be making like a half a penny per stream. It's crazy. So I'm like, where's all the money going? So of course the streamers, the Amazon, the Netflix, those get Disney, they're making all the money. And then what they'll do, they'll have a marketing push of Spike Lee stuff, or I don't know, whoever that's a big name, and they'll say, we spent X amount of million on this person, but they didn't give anybody else any money. So that's advertising. LeBron James, we gave him $8 million, but nobody else got any money. So they making money off of everybody, but they advertise that one deal with LeBron James. And so then everybody running around talking about, hey man, they're giving out this million. No, they're not. They are not. Most of that content is from people that don't have the money, that shot it, put it together themselves. That's where most of the streaming content is coming from. Not from Netflix and Amazon. They're not paying for that on that level. So yeah, at the end of the day, the streaming thing is not going to make you the money that you want to make. So you got to find other ways of making that capital. And that's with touring, that's with music, and with movies. And that's what I'm prepared to do.
Athletes have been financing movies for years. I remember Rocket Ishmael, Steph Curry. He
got 215 million for 4 years. 50 million plus. That's just crazy. And they scared to death of their own people, because a lot of them as athletes, they're not really business people. So they get all this new money, and then they have business advisors, typically who are not from our community, and they tell them day one, do not trust all these black people with their hands out asking for money. So our athletes, as much money as they have, a lot of times, man, it's very hard to deal with them because they don't trust the black community. We support them, but they don't have that trust like that.
Because I was literally making the point, like, they finance movies though. It's like, even LeBron, he got his own production company now.
He got his company.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Kobe Bryant had his company. He's not financing other people's movies, no. And if they do it, watch what happens. They'll be quiet about it because they don't want everybody to know. But that screws me up now if you didn't let nobody know unless you gave me enough money. So a lot of times they don't finance the whole thing. They finance a percentage of it. They don't let everybody know. Then a lot of times these movies aren't successful because they didn't finance the whole thing, and it doesn't have the marketing or the money execution that it needs. And then it becomes, I financed this little film over here.